Okay, so are you able to see the slides? Slides are not visible. Okay. Okay, let me do the sharing again. Is it visible now? Okay. Fine. So now I think we can start. Yeah. Okay. So I think we have discussed up to this point when we calculate how to means to the average throughput of the TCP connection. So the basic short-tooth behavior that gives an idea, rough estimation of the throughput about W plus W by 2 divided by 2 RTT. And so that gives us the 0.75 RTT, sorry, 0.75 or 75% of the link utilization. And then we have also discussed that if using the buffers, if the buffers are available at the routers in which the additional packets which immediately cannot be serviced by the router, they can be buffered for some time. That also can slightly increase means throughput little bit, but we cannot get the 100% utilization. So that means the TCP, if we say the TCP is the throughput is constrained uh, is to somewhere near to 75 to 80%, not more than that of the total capacity of the link. Okay, so now we are moving to to understand this AIMD, that is additive increase and multiplicative decrease approach or algorithm basically, which is used for the TCP congestion control as a TCP congestion control algorithm. So the basis for that algorithm that we are now trying to understand. So first we'll see for congestion control in general, the objectives, what are the objectives of the congestion control. So the key to the congestion control avoidance is the control function, and that is that control function which is used to increase or decrease their sending window. So basically we need to just devise a algorithm in which we say that, okay, what will be the my increase function, let us say every RTT or every unit of time, and once the congestion is perceived, then what is my decrease function. And if I have a more than one, if I can perceive that, okay, the different levels of congestion, then accordingly my decrease function also can be different. But you know that in TCP, the level, the basic in the basic TCP, the level is not measured in congestion level. The only, you can say, two levels which means in a Reno, one is that if you detect the congestion or the packet loss with 3 duplicate ACK, then we can consider that, okay, network is less congested less as compared to if the packet loss event is detected by timeout event, right? So the two levels you can assume that, okay, this way. So if any approach, any new approach, if we have a multiple levels, then accordingly the decrease function also can have the how much we have to decrease the rate that can be decided. So the first thing is the first objective is that any approach, and this is the approach which if we want to implement on an internet kind of a system, then that approach must be the distributed approach, means centralized approach definitely will not be practically feasible. Then another is that efficiency. So you can see in this graph that's this plot is between the load and the throughput. right? As you increase the load, means initially your throughput is increasing, and then the throughput is saturates at some maximum level, and that indicates that the maximum capacity of the link through which my connection data or my data is passing through. So once it reaches to the maximum, then certainly after that, beyond that, if you are increasing the load, then certainly it result into the packet drop, and due to that you have to reduce the sending rate, right? Because loss uh, is indicating the congestion, and then you have to reduce the congestion by reducing the sending rate. So uh, precisely, if you'll say, then at knee, so this is your, you can basically the operating point. You should your connection should operate most of the time somewhere here. Once it reaches to the cliff, then it will fall down, means the packet loss will occur or buffers will overflow, right? So then so we can say that at knee the total utilization is equals to sigma of xi t at some time t. So basically, if you have a multiple user, suppose multiple TCP connections are passing through a bottleneck link, then you'll say one connection is consuming x1 bandwidth, another connection consuming x2, x3, and so on. So like that, if I have a total n users are there, so the summation is basically I to n, and I have a xi that is equals to this at time t. Okay, so at time t basically. So my always I should get a so it should be efficient, means total uh, uh, resource allocation must be equal to the whatever the total amount of resource which is available, which is in this case we say that it is a up to the knee. Then fairness means all users should get equal resource sharing. It should not happen that okay, one connection is getting more bandwidth or the other connection or other flow is getting less bandwidth. Wherever they are sharing the link, that the link must be shared uh, equally, right? So this is my fairness index calculation. So fairness is given, suppose two users are there. So in this case, it will result into, so my fairness index f will be sigma of xi. So it is x1 uh, x1 plus x2 if the two are there, so it's x1 plus x2 whole square, divide by how many users, two users are there, and then x1 square plus x2 square, right? So if x1 equals to x2 equals to x, means both are sharing equal, then my what will be my fairness index? F equals to, so this is 2x whole square divided by 4 into 2x square. Right? So this f equals to 2x square. So okay, it should be we've done some mistake. Just a moment. 2x whole square, x1 plus x2. It should come 1 in this case. Fairness index should come 1. So what we did actually, n into x1 square plus x2 square. So 1x square to 2x square. Okay, it is, sorry. So it is 4. 2 into 2. This is not 4, this is 2, right? So it is 4x square upon 4x square. So basically it is 1, right? So my fairness index is 1. That means both are, if it is less than 1, then means uh, uh, the resources are not shared equally, means there is a imbalance is there among the flows. So one fairness index indicates everything is fine. So my fairness index should be always 1. Then the most important, the last but the most important objective of any congestion control algorithm is that my control system must be stable and reach to goal state from any starting state quickly. Wherever the system starts, from whichever point it starts, it should reach to the final goal state. And final goal state is what? Maximum efficiency and the maximum fairness. That it should reach to that always, means efficiency and fairness. These are the two main, you can say, parameters are there or objectives are there. So now we will just understand means this control system can be devised as a linear control you can devise, or you can control exponential. So if you have a non-linear parameters, then you may have a exponential control. So we'll just take it a linear control. So there are many different possibilities for reaction to the congestion and the probing. Means once the congestion is perceived, then basically you have to decrease, and otherwise you have to always probe to get the maximum, right? So this is one simple linear control that we can see, that is at time t plus 1, my window size is given by a plus b into window size at time t. Now we can have a different AB value based on that. So for TCP, what have been used? So it is A value. So for increase function, A value is A equals to A equals to 1 and B equals to 0. So you can see at WT plus 1 time, the window is 1 1 plus, so B is also 1, sorry. So it is 1 plus B into, so B is 1, so 1 plus W into T. You know that in a congestion avoidance phase, my increase function is what? We increase the window by 1 in each RTT, right? So that is for increase. Similarly, for decrease function is, for decrease function, my values of A and B will be what? A equals to 0 and B equals to half. So the window at time t plus 1 will be equals to half of or 0.5 of window at time t, right? So we do the reduction, half, 50% reduction. So like that, there can be different values. It can be 50%, 70%, 80%. These values I have currently I have shown for the TCP congestion control for which we have used, right? So it supports, means this linear control support various reaction to the signals, like you can increase or decrease additively, you can increase and decrease multiplicatively, or you can have a so like that you can, for using additive increase and additive and multiplicative increase decrease function, you can have a 4 combinations. So I think in the last class I told AI, AD, additive increase, additive decrease, multiplicative increase, multiplicative decrease, and additive increase, multiplicative decrease, and what is the last combination? Multiplicative decrease, additive increase, multiplicative decrease. AIA. Okay, this is AIMD is already there. Additive increase, additive decrease, multiplicative increase, multiplicative decrease, additive increase, multiplicative decrease. What is the last combination left?
MIAD.
MIAD, multiplicative increase, additive decrease. Yeah. Okay, so let us see that. Okay, which all out of these 4 combinations, which combination is using that we can achieve this objective, means maximum efficiency and maximum fairness. Other things are okay, fine. And this is also important. Convergence means from anywhere my system start, it should converge to the optimal, and my optimal is that to get the maximum both of them. So let us to understand this first. So this we'll understand with the help of a two-phase plot. So you can see in this two-phase plot, you have an x-axis. It shows the user one's allocation, that is, let us say x1, and user two's. So user one, user two, you can consider as a TCP flow one and TCP flow two. Let us say two flows are there. So this is for one flow, and that these two flows are shared, or they are sharing a bottleneck link. Now on this plot, this line. So this line indicates the efficiency line, means it is x. It represents the x1 plus x2. So basically, x1 plus x2 is equals to x ni, right? This is the maximum capacity of that. So my connection state should be always there on this line, means suppose this point. So in this case, it is okay. X1 value is this much, and x2 value is this much, and sum is equal to the maximum capacity. If it is here, then you will get a different value. But this is not just a one criteria, because x1 plus x2 is equals to x ni is a one, but it should be equal, x1 and x2 should be equal also, right? So to mark the other, the fairness. So this is my fairness line here, right? A line which is joining to the center. So this point, so this is my, you can say this point is optimal point, or you can say ultimate goal for the congestion control function. Means, so my system can start from any point and ultimately it should converge, or it should reach to here. So this point gives me meeting both the criteria, that efficiency criteria as well as the fairness criteria. So now we will examine these four combinations on this out of these four combinations, which combination is taking me to the optimal point, right? So first we look at that how the additive increase and the additive decrease function we can plot on this two phase, how it is going to be represented, right? So the additive increase and decrease policy, or you can say algorithm of increasing both users allocation by a amount some AL, corresponds to moving along a 45-degree line. So suppose you are here initially, right? So this is below the efficiency line, because this this allocation gives me that okay, x1 plus x2 is less than the maximum efficiency which can be achieved. So certainly means both the connection are supposed to increase their sending rate, like in a probing state they should be there. So when both will increase in next round, it may possible that after increasing both of them, then their let us say the next round the connection state reach to this point, and now you can see this point is above the efficiency line, right? So so AIAD, say additive increase and additive increase and additive decrease, if you do, then you are oscillating basically along this line. Now by what amount you are increasing and decreasing, that will decide exactly how much the you can say time period, not time period, basically the length of the oscillation, basically how much. If it is your amount is less, then maybe oscillations are of small size oscillations. Otherwise, it will be long. It depends upon how much you are decreasing and how much you are increasing, right? Ultimately, after oscillating several times, you should settle down to somewhere here. Means on this line, then efficiency criteria is met. But also you need to go with the at a fairness lines as well. So this is additive increase and additive decrease, how to plot on the two-phase plot, how it looks like. When you do the suppose you do the additive increase, then fairness, what about the fairness? Fairness will increase or fairness will decrease? Suppose you are here at time t0 and then you increase. So your initial allocation is 1 is 4 and 1 is 5. Then you do the additive increase 4 plus 1 and 5 plus 1. And now if you'll calculate the fairness index, so at time, let us say T1, and at time T, you have allocations are 4 and 5. So after at time T1, what will be your fairness? Means relationship between whether the fairness will increase or decrease, or it will remain same. Okay, so this you can check out, means you need to apply that formula and see that. Intuitively also you can say that, okay, whether the after increasing, if you increase it, then whether the fairness will increase as compared to the previous state or decrease. Okay, so otherwise you can apply the formula and you can check for some values, and then you will understand how my fairness is changing. Definitely fairness is going to be changed. It's not going to be constant, right? Okay. Now, just we'll see that multiplicative increase decrease, how it's going to be plotted on this two-phase on this graph. So multiplicative increase decrease with the same factor over a time, means let us say factor is 0.5, which is used in TCP, or maybe in some other protocol, maybe that can be different, right? So this line is represented by extension from origin. So suppose you're at time t0 you are here, and now because you are below the efficiency line, total allocation is less than the efficiency line. So that means in the next round both connections are going to increase their sending rate, and after increasing, let us say they jump over the efficiency line, and their increase and decrease is multiplicative. So suppose one user have a 4 and another user have a 5, or let us say 6. So then 4 will make 0.5, by 0.5 it will decrease, and 6 will 0.5 increase. So if I are here, then they are increasing by the 0.5 factor. So so what will happen? So this will give me 0.2, this will give me 3. So the next round their value will be 4 plus 2 and 4 plus 3. Sorry, 6 plus 3. So this is 6 and this is 9, right? So the fairness will remain constant even here also, right? Multiplicative increase and decrease will not change the fairness. If you increase multiplicatively or decrease multiplicatively, your fairness is going to be constant only. And constant fairness line can be shown on this plot by a line which is joining the origin. So you can say extension from the origin this way. Right. So now we understood that how to plot the multiplicative increase and multiplicative increase and decrease, and how to plot the additive increase and additive decrease. So now we'll see that they will try out these 4 combinations. So what is the right choice? So the right choice, okay. So first we'll check it AIMD, and the AIMD we know that TCP uses, and why TCP uses, that reason is now here. So we'll take that, let us say we'll start from some point. So let us say I'm starting from here, x0, this is my initial. It is below the efficiency line, so next round both will increase. So additive increase is additive. So increase is additive means a line which is parallel 45 degree to the fairness line. To this, so that is represented by a line which is parallel to this 45-degree line, and this 45-degree line is basically it's a fairness line. So I will just do the parallel and reach here. Now this is more than the efficiency line, so definitely both the connection will observe the packet losses. They will detect the packet losses, and then now in the next round both will reduce their rate. And if both are using TCP, then certainly they will reduce with some factor 0.5, and the multiplicative decrease is there. So the decrease is multiplicative, and the collective, so the multiplicative decrease means this x1 and the new point, the system will reach to the x2, and that line will be basically extension from the origin, right? So in this direction. So this is my multiplicative decrease. Now, because it is below the efficiency line, so now they will both will increase. So my increase is additive. So additive means it's the point, next point, that x3 will be so I will join these two line, such that it is becomes parallel to the fairness line, right? Then because it is more than the efficiency, so in the next round both will reduce it. So it is going to this way. So if you see that this is taking me in some number of iterations, it is taking me towards the fairness line. So definitely I will reach some point in time here. You can take this point maybe somewhere here also. Let us say I took it here. So first I will below the efficiency line, so I will increase it. So I reach somewhere here, right? So how far from the efficiency line, that depends upon what is my factor of increasing and decreasing, right? That will decide the size of the oscillations. And then because it is more than, so my multiplicative decrease. So multiplicative decrease means a line which is joining to towards this center. So okay, so my point will somewhere here, and then parallel, and then here, and then parallel, and then here. So you can see that I am going towards this optimal point, going towards the optimal point. You can try out some other combination. Let us say AIAD if I want to try, right? So how the AIAD will be looks like here, additive increase and additive decrease. So suppose this is my starting point, and so I will do the increase, and so I'll reach here, decrease, I will go in this direction. So I will oscillating at a one point only. If AIAD I do, it will never take me to the optimal point. Only one case is there. If by luck, if I am here, my point is somewhere here, then I will be oscillating around this point, optimal point. So that's not going, so this is not meeting the objective of the basic, the key objective of the congestion control approach, right? So similarly, you can check the other MIMD also. MIMD also will take you, will not take you to the optimal point. It will take away from the optimal point basically. Suppose starting from here, or then it will, you are going in this direction. So AIMD is the only, you can say, combination out of these additive and multiplicative decrease that takes me to the optimal point from any location or any point in whatever state the system is there, wherever the system is there, state is there, I will always, in some number of iteration, I will reach to the optimal point. And that is the reason behind choosing the AIMD approach for the congestion, as a AIMD as a congestion control function for TCP, right? Okay, so is there any question? Okay, should I check? Yeah, nothing is there. Okay, so if no question, then we will move to the next slide. So this is the reason behind taking this AIMD as a control function. Yeah. Okay. So now we we'll do that. So TCP modeling. Modeling means basically we want to come up with a throughput formula, right? So so we can analyze the performance. Although we have done we have calculated the throughput that is just based on the 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 windows in terms of the window size only, that that is 0.75 of W divided by RTT, right? So now we'll try to add few more parameters as well. So what are these parameters? So important factors which affect the TCP performance are loss rate is very important, means, right? You know that because every time a packet loss occur, then the sending rate is to be reduced by 50%. So if the frequent losses are there, then certainly my TCP performance or the throughput of the TCP connection is going to be affected severely, right? So that's why the loss rate needs to be included in the TCP throughput formula. Second is the RTT also matters. It affects the increase rate and relates the bandwidth to the window. So suppose your connection RTT is less, then your increase rate will be more, right? because you send the packet, one packet and got the acknowledgement. So you quickly send the two packets now next round. Or so if your RTT is less, basically the amount of you can say throughput, you can say it's basically inversely proportional to the RTT. More the RTT, less the throughput, right? We can say like that. Then RTO also play the role, retransmission timeout. That also affects the performance during the loss recovery, because if your RTO retransmission timeout is a large, then maybe you have to wait for the retransmitting the lost packet, right? And then if you retransmit the packet, then only you can, after that only you can slide the window after getting the acknowledgement. Otherwise you stuck and your sending rate, you will not be able to send more data, right? So RTO also play a critical role in the TCP performance. And obviously the maximum segment size also affect, because how much data maximum in a single segment you can send. Suppose your segments are 50 bytes, 100 bytes kind of thing. So then as an algorithm, you will say, okay, every time one MSS, so your segment size are 50, only in one round you are able to send 50. And another connection which is sending in one round, let us say 1000 bytes. So definitely this connection throughput will be more as compared to this. And the other thing is that the overhead will be more in case of you are sending smaller size segments, because by in every segment, whether it is a 2 byte data or a 10 byte data or a 1000 byte data, your 40 byte TCP plus IP header, including 40 byte data, is always going along with that, right? So maximum segment size also affects the increase rate. So it affects ultimately it affects the throughput of the TCP connection. Now we'll see that in terms of some of the parameters, we will try to get one throughput formula for the TCP. So for that model, we are taking some assumptions, and assumption is that my RTT is fixed. Okay, although it's a strong assumption, but yeah, to come up with some formula, we need to take this assumption. So RTT is fixed, and ACKs are not delayed. Means all that ACKs are coming on time. There is no delay in that. And in steady state, so we know that in steady state TCP loses packet each time window reaches to W packet, right? And that time the window drops to the W by 2 packets. Now in each RTT, window increase by one packet or one segment. Okay, here I'm using word packet, but yeah, okay, in TCP the more precise term is segment. So in each RTT window, increases by one packet. So in a W by 2 RTT, it will take W by 2 RTT before the next loss occur. Assuming that next loss will also occur near to W only, exactly. There is, let us say there is no other connection. So it will go to that up to the W only. So bandwidth or the throughput or bandwidth captured by, or you can say bandwidth grabbed by this TCP connection, or the throughput, because both have same unit. So basically we can use interchangeably both the term. So bandwidth grabbed or the throughput attained by the TCP flow is equals to maximum segment size, whatever the segment size is there, multiply with average window divided by RTT. And what is my average window? Okay, that already we have calculated. Average window is W plus W by 2 divided by 2. That is a average window. So this is my average window. So this will be 3W by 4. So now we just put, so if we just put it this 3W by 4 into this, so I can write with the 0.75 W by into MSS by RTT. That is my throughput. Okay. Now try to incorporate the loss model. So we'll see that first we need to calculate what is the loss rate. So we'll say you know that at W, so my connect means my TCP congestion window is oscillating between W to W by 2. So when it goes from W by 2 to W, how much time it takes? We know that W by 2 into RTT, this much of time it takes. W by 2 RTT it takes, in other words, right? And in this time, how much you can say how many segments are transferred. So this is a throughput, right? So 0.75 W by RTT. So if throughput I multiply with the time, then I will get that number of segment transferred. So I just multiply these two and I got the number of segment transferred equals to 3W square by 8, right? So in a 3W square by 8 segments are transferred, then one packet or one segment is lost, because once I reach from here to W, then let us assume that one packet, minimum one packet loss, or assume that exactly one packet loss, let us say, right? Because these are all assumptions to come up with some model. So now, so I can say that in the when after every 3W square by 8 segment transferred, then one packet loss. So what is my loss rate? Loss rate will be 8 by 3W square, just inverse of it, this, right? So loss rate is L equals to 8 by 3W square. So now this is my loss rate. So in terms of the window size, if I just write the loss rate, so W equals to square root of 8 by 3L, correct? Then now just this W value, I put it in the this bandwidth or this throughput formula. So 0.75 into MSS W by RTT. This W I will replace with square root of 8 by 3L. So so using this, we will be able to present the throughput in the form of loss rate also, in terms of the loss rate as well. So this will come like this. So it is bandwidth or the throughput of the TCP connection is MSS divided by RTT. You can solve it maybe square root of 2L by 3. L is a loss rate. Okay, so if you will this root 2 by 3, if you will calculate, then you will get something 1.22 into MSS divided by RTT into square root of loss rate. So one important observation which is coming from this is that TCP throughput is proportional to 1 by square root of loss rate. So this is using this you can say equation, we can characterize the TCP behavior. That TCP throughput is inversely proportional to the square root of the loss rate. So any protocol, suppose in somebody design a new protocol and you want that, okay, it is means its characteristic should be matches to the TCP. Otherwise, it should. So we can get the same behavior with that protocol also. Then we can say that, okay, the both protocols can be used together without affecting, means whenever they will share the bottleneck link, at least they will not get unbiased share of the bandwidth. They will get the equal share of the bandwidth only, and that's very important for any new protocol somebody design in present time. It should be compatible in whenever, means it should be fair with respect to the TCP. Actually, that's a key requirement. Otherwise, what happens if it's not fair? Then all the applications which are using TCP as their transport protocol, then these applications will be suffered, right? If it is, and if it is giving the getting the less share than the TCP protocol, then also it is not acceptable. That protocol will not acceptable. And if that new protocol is getting more bandwidth than the TCP, wherever it is sharing the link, right? Then also it is not acceptable, because the community will say that, okay, it is unbiased with respect to the TCP, right? So this is very important thing for if we want to come up with, anybody wants to come up with any new protocol replacement of the TCP. So it should be fair with respect to the TCP. Okay, so now we'll see one important observation based on this throughput formula which we have derived just now. So let us take few numbers. So like my example is a 1500 byte segments is there, right? 100 millisecond is my RTT. So maximum MSS is basically 1500 bytes. So this is MSS, and this 100 millisecond RTT. And let us say I want 10 Gbps throughput. Suppose some link is there of 10 Gbps, and I want that 10 Gbps of throughput is suppose I want to achieve, right? So then if I say that 10 Gbps throughput and I put the values of 15 MSS as a 1500 bytes and RTT as 100 millisecond, and the loss, so what loss rate I will get it, right? So this 10 Gbps throughput can be get if my loss rate is 2 into 10 power minus 10. Then it is possible to achieve the 10 Gbps throughput. And now you see what does it mean actually? That 2 into 10 power minus 10 loss rate means what? To get the 10 Gbps throughput, my connection can afford one loss event for every these many segments. Okay, so so you see that it's a huge number actually, and this kind of a loss rate achieving it's very difficult actually, right? So means loss rate should be very less, and so that's not practically not possible. So in other words, we can say if this loss rate, achieving this loss rate is not practically possible, that means the getting this 10 Gbps throughput is also a kind of a nightmare for the TCP connection, right? So that's why TCP is not good for or not giving good performance for high bandwidth delay product links. So there is a term which is called as a high bandwidth delay product. Bandwidth delay product. So bandwidth and delay product. So if it is a this bandwidth delay product for the links for which the bandwidth delay product is high, so such links TCP is not a good protocol for that. So which type of link? So either maybe the bandwidth is very high, means huge bandwidth is there. So or maybe the delay for the link is more. Either of that case. So say for example satellite links, the delay is very high. And for like nowadays for optical fiber link, you have a means 1 terabyte of links are there. So for such links, TCP is not a good protocol. Now let us take example of high bandwidth. Why the high bandwidth? For the high bandwidth links, TCP is not giving good performance. So one thing you can understand from this example itself, to get a 10 Gbps throughput, you need this much of loss rate. Now achieving this loss rate is very it's a kind of a almost impossible. At least your packet will be lost well before this sending these many segments. So means it will be difficult, and you can understand from the way the TCP connection start also. Suppose you have a 10 Gbps link is there, right? Now how you are starting? You are starting 1 MSS. You are sending suppose 1460 bytes, then 2 MSS. So that slow start, now you can understand that why it is called as a slow start. You are starting with 1 MSS, then 2 MSS, third round you are sending 4 MSS, then 8 MSS. By the time you will reach to this thing, means so many rounds will happen, means you require maybe thousands of rounds, then only maybe sometime you can reach there. And provided that there is no packet loss occur in between. Otherwise, again, you have to come down to the half, and then again you will start with the, and also it is not like 1 to 4 going, it is that 1 to 4 also is going up to some threshold value, and then you are linearly increasing, right? So certainly for high bandwidth link, it is not a or in general, or in very precisely, if I say high bandwidth delay product links, TCP is not a good protocol in terms of the performance. And one more observation from the internet traffic is most of the connections, if you see, they die in their slow start phase itself. And this you can also observe from the way you are doing your browsing and all. Suppose you click some website, right? You click some 2-3 links, and then that's all. Your job is over. Means whatever you want to get it, that you got. And so maybe 5 or 10 segments you have sent, and then you can say before your connection enter into the congestion avoidance phase, or connection saturates basically. Before that, the connection die. And this happens with the 80% of the internet traffic is basically a short flows are there. So just clicking few links or just, and then it's over, right? And only the 20% of the 20% of the flows in the internet, they stayed for a longer duration. And TCP gives better performance, some slightly better performance, I can say, means when the connection stays for a longer duration. Otherwise, what happen? Your connection is going to die in the in the slow start phase itself. So, and that till that time your congestion window is not so big so that you can get a better rate. So your rate, you're getting better sending rate or better throughput when it is there. Your congestion window is a little bigger, and that is achieved in the congestion avoidance phase. Okay. Okay. So now I think last one small topic we'll discuss, and then we'll stop this lecture. In between, if you have any question, please feel free to ask the question. Otherwise, I can continue with this topic. Okay, so if there is no question, then I think I can continue with this, and then we'll rest the lecture. So this is another very interesting thing that is called as a silly window syndrome. This is a problem, basically. Syndrome, anyway, you know that's a problem. So what exactly it is? Okay, let us understand it, and then we'll discuss one solution as well. So the silly window syndrome problem is like this: that if the sender, so you see that so okay, let me read this sentence, and I think, so should the sender transmit a half MSS or wait for the window to open to a full MSS? Right. So suppose TCP sender have some data, right, which is less than the MSS size, maximum segment size, right? Let us say maximum segment size is 1460 bytes, and currently sender have, let us say, 100 bytes data which is received from the application. So now the question is, should sender immediately create a one small segment of 100 bytes and send it in the network, or it should wait for, so that once it gets the full segment size, then because sending full segment size is means give better throughput, less overhead will be there. Otherwise, every 100 bytes you have a 40 byte header at least, that header value that is coming from TCP and IP, and then link layer header again 18 bytes will be there in case of Ethernet. So you know that this is not good to send small segments, because it is um, reduce my throughput, because per unit time that data which I am sending, that I am sending less, so my sending rate will be throughput will be less in case. So in place of that, it's better that okay, I wait for some time maybe, and then sending the larger segments. Larger segment, then their corresponding acknowledgements will also open the larger window for me. So the early implementation of the TCP allows transmission of even half segment only, because they have not realized that okay, this is the problem basically. So even it was allowed, but later on it in the later implementation it has been changed, and so this is strategy can lead to the silly window syndrome. So see what happens, what is exactly. So let us say this is a TCP sender. What is the exactly problem? And this is a receiver. Okay, so this is TCP a receiver. Now you see that let me change the color. So now sender is, let us say, sending small packets, right? So small packet it is sending. These are, and once a small packet received by the receiver, then the acknowledgement will come, corresponding acknowledgement. It is acknowledging a small size packet only. So once the sender starts sending the small segments, then it will continue to sending the small segments only, because what happened, once it receives this acknowledgement which is acknowledging a this much of data only, then its window will be open by this much, and again it will send it this. So this you can say this process will continue, that once the small segment starts sending, sender starts sending, then these small segments will be continually small segments are going. So, but the better, and we know that, okay, the sending this small segment is basically more overhead and the less throughput. So this should not happen. We need to avoid this. So this is called as a silly window syndrome problem. Because window opens every time a small window is open, and then immediately sender sends the data, and this will be repeatedly done by this because of every acknowledgement also acknowledging a small segment, and once the window is open, then again TCP will sender will send a small packet only. So once it starts sending small packets, the small packet sending will continue. That's the problem. So, uh, so now the origin of this problem is either sender transmit a small segment, okay, that may be the one reason for this problem, or the receiver opens the window a small amount, because always sender is also depend on the receiver, that how much receiver is willing to receive. So if the receiver itself says, okay, no, I cannot receive more than 50 bytes at this moment, then sender anyway don't have a choice. So, and sender cannot send more than that. And other another reason is that sender itself is transmitting a small segment. Why it is sending? Because maybe application itself is generating data in very infrequent data, and small data it is generating. So then also, because sender don't know that how long I should wait for getting a larger chunk, means how long I should wait. Otherwise it will delay, and that problem will be there. Or maybe sometime applications use the push flag to push the data immediately. Then whatever data is available, that immediately sender is supposed to send, TCP sender. So definitely it is not possible to outlaw the sending small segments. Why? Because that is because of this application requirement. So sender, if suppose senders is the application itself is using the push flag, and small data it is generating, and then it needs to be immediately transmitted. But we can keep the receiver from introducing the these containers. So small containers means receiver is acknowledging just a small segment, and corresponding to that, once this acknowledgement is received by the sender, then sender will just send a small segment only next time also, right? So sending stopping the sender to sending the small segment is not possible. Reason I explained, that application requirement. But yes, the small containers created by the receiver, due to the receiver, these can be stopped. Now how to stop for that? uh, the solution can be that receiver must wait for, so after advertising a zero window means no packet received, receiver must wait for space equal to an MSS before it advertises again. So receiver should not immediately advertise that, okay, fine, okay, now 50 bytes is available. So once it reaches to zero due to any reason, then after that it should wait for some time, so that a larger, at least the space equal to an maximum segment size is advertises can be created. So receiver can, so how the receiver can do, we can program the receiver that it can delay the acknowledgements and send the combined acknowledgements. Once it will send the combined acknowledgement, then definitely it will open a larger section window size at a receiver side, because it is acknowledging more bytes, so the more window will be open. But the problem in this approach is this receiver don't have any clue how long it should wait for the acknowledgement, because it don't know that, okay, how from the sender side how the data is going to come, how much time it will take. So how much it should delay actually, how much it should wait, because receiver have receiver don't have any clue. So we cannot devise any algorithm. Okay, 10 seconds, 200 millisecond, 400 millisecond, 1 second, 5 second, 10 second. How much it should wait? Because how to program that? So simply putting some, you can say some time. Okay, you delay with the X amount of time. That sometime may it work, sometime it will not work. So that's not a solution. So Nagels gave the algorithm. So this algorithm says that uh, when does, so this algorithm address this question: when does the sender, TCP sender, decide to transmit a segment? or how long the sender should wait. So it says that when the application produces the data to send, if both the available data and the window is greater than the maximum segment size, then there is no problem as such, because then it will not create any silly window syndrome problem. So it will send a full segment and wait for the acknowledgement. Otherwise, if there is an unacknowledged data in flight, because sender knows that, okay, these many bytes I have sent, and my, let us say, send base is here, and these many bytes I have sent, and waiting for this, and the next byte I'm sending is a next byte which I'm supposed to send is this. So this much of data has been sent. Now this data is not acknowledged. So this much is outstanding data is there. Once this data acknowledgement is received, then I can slide my window from here to here, right? My send base will come here, and my window, anyway, next byte will be here, but my window congestion currently, let us say congestion window is somewhere this much. Now my new congestion window will be here. Okay. So if there is unacknowledged data in flight, then buffer the new data until an ACK arrives. Means you wait for the ACKs to come from the receiver side. So now it is solving the problem, okay, because receiver anyway, because at receiver side we cannot make this arrangement that, okay, receiver should wait. Receiver always send the acknowledgement quickly, right, as quick as possible. Sender should wait. And now sender have an idea that, okay, how much unacknowledged data is there. So it knows that, okay, some unacknowledged data is there. Then I will buffer the new data until the ACK arrives. Once the ACK will arrive, my window will open more, and then I will able to send a complete one MSS. If there is no unacknowledged data, means everything is acknowledged, and I have a data which is less than the one MSS and no unacknowledged, then I don't have any choice. Then I should not wait. Then the sender should send the new data immediately, because then you cannot do anything basically. Right. So this is the Nagel's algorithm. There are other algorithms are also there which addresses the silly window syndrome problem. This is one of the algorithm which I discussed. Okay, so I think I will stop here, and now we have just few topics are left. One is a TCP fairness, and one more topic, that is we will discuss two commercial deployment of the TCP algorithms. One is in Linux systems, cubic TCP is used, right? TCP Reno, you know that, TCP Tahoe, you know. Cubic TCP is mostly in a Linux based system protocol stack. Cubic TCP is implemented. So how cubic works, basic semantics are same, but yeah, this congestion control algorithm is different. So that I will briefly tell in the next class. And in Microsoft uses the compound TCP. Microsoft use in a Windows operating system, that congestion control algorithm which is used for the TCP is that TCP is called as a compound TCP. So these two TCP variant congestion control algorithm briefly we will discuss in the next class along with this fairness. And okay, fine. I will introduce you few more TCP variants and the recent advancement in the congestion control in the internet. Something I will talk about that also. So those who are interested in doing some research or something, some project they want to take it up, you can. So I will just I will just aware you about the recent developments as well. So that will conclude our this chapter after the next class, and then we'll start the network layer in the subsequent class. Okay.
Oh, so
Yes.
so in the Nagel's algorithm, by introducing that constraint, aren't we losing the benefits of pipelining?